Okay, so now we are going live, and I'm just going to go to the, so I ended up leaving that screen, so I have to go back over there. So we're just starting a few technical glitches here, people, but we're getting there. So while I am doing this and finding us, I will do a quick introduction. So today is Monday Whispers Chat. So welcome to Monday Whispers Chat. And so my name is Rollie Allaire, and I am a holistic life and wellness coach. And so Bridging the Gap Wellness is all about creating holistic life and finding balance. And each week during Monday Whispers Chat, we feature an amazing and inspiring woman. So, so today we have with us Jesse Campbell. And so really excited that Jesse is here. So Jesse is an intuitive an angel intuitive grounding coach who provides trusted and supportive guidance by connecting to your angels through Oracle Divination, resulting in clarity and knowledge to fully move forward. She was born with a natural intuitive and clairvoyant and healing capabilities. So welcome, Jesse. Is there anything else that you want to be able to add about yourself?
No, I think you said, well, you know, that's part of my life. I have different variations. I think that sums it up pretty well, though.
Okay. Awesome. So today we're actually going to be talking about relationships and using, so the topic is about toxic relationships and angelic healing. So, so that's a really interesting topic. So can you tell me a little bit more about the topic itself?
Yeah, so angelic healing, I feel, what I like to do is to teach people how to connect to your angels, because what it does is I feel a lot of people make bad decisions, especially with relationships, because they feel alone. And I like to teach people that you're never truly alone with the angels. And angelic healing can come in many different ways that you don't always know that are angelic healings. A lot of this I didn't know until I started on my journey here.
Okay. So, so how long have you been on this journey?
So I had my spiritual awakening about 2, almost 3 years ago. I was in a toxic 10-year marriage, and it was really bad. But you don't see it as bad. You just see it as, you know, it's a relationship, and every relationship's going to have its ups and downs. And when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. There's going to just be a lot of valleys, unfortunately, in that relationship. And my angels, I feel I got drawn to this journey because of that, because of the marriage was so toxic and the way that it ended, that I was in a very low place, and the angels, I feel, came and saved me and brought me up and gave me, and that's why I went on my spiritual awakening. So
nice. So welcome, Sandra. Sandra is actually joining us. So if you have any questions, or if you guys are catching the replay, #replay, and let us know that you are watching if you're on live. If you guys have any questions, or if you guys want to be able to join in the discussion, we would love to have you guys join in. Jesse will actually be able to come back and answer any questions as well if you guys have any questions. So Jesse, one of the things that you said is that that you were in this toxic relationship and you didn't see how it was actually impacting you. So how did you start to notice?
Well, it was funny because, you know, at the end, nobody really notices a toxic relationship until like the end, and usually things go crazy, and that's why you start noticing. But I was going through things and trying to make it better. And I looked over at my daughter, because I remember I was going to counseling, and the counselor asked me, how long are you going to sit here and deal with this craziness? Because I was telling her about my husband and all the crazy things that he, you know, thinks and says and does. And I said, well, I'm going to do it forever because of my daughter, because she was 4 at the time. And I didn't want to break up. I didn't want her to have to deal with that. And, but one day when I looked over and me and him were arguing, and I had that kind of, where do I go? Yeah, and she couldn't escape. And that was the moment, that was the aha moment that I was like, I have to leave. There is no use in keeping this family together, because two homes are happier than one dysfunctional home. So,
yep.
But unfortunately, that's where most women have to come to that moment, and it has to be so drastic that, you know, that they're traumatized by it forever. So that's why I like to try to help people before it gets to that point, because people don't realize that it's even there half the time.
Yep. And it's, so one of the things that, so were you actually, so this counselor had been asking you for some time, and so, but like, did you have anybody else in your life that was actually asking you these same kind of questions? Like, why are you in this relationship, or pointing out things that you were oblivious to?
Well, what's funny is that well, because I was married to him for 10 years, and he was 10 years older than me as well. So when I finally got the courage to divorce him, everyone and their mom dropped their opinion about how they felt about him, and they didn't like him, and he was controlling, because I'm a very energetic, outgoing person. And those 10 years, nobody really saw me or heard me, because he was busy dragging me around the country, because that's what narcissists, that's what controlling, manipulative people do. They take you away from your family, then they fill you full of all these ideas, and then they seclude you from everyone. And so that's kind of what happened. And I'm a very strong person, but this guy worked on me for years. Like, I would say our first 4 years were like, you know, happy and decent. And then the last 6 years were just like, what is this? Like, this is the most terrible thing I've ever been in. But then you feel trapped, and then they cut off all your friends and family. So then you're like, well, I can't ever go back to anybody. So then you just feel like a victim. So then it's just like a carousel that never stops.
And it's that vicious cycle, right? So one thing sounds like, so it's like, oh, well, everything, like you said, the first 4 years. And if you actually probably took a look at some of the patterns, he was probably already starting some of those, seeding some of those things, right? So instilling some of those beliefs, instilling some of those things that you're not capable of doing things, you're not able to be strong, and that all of these people that are around you, like, they're not good for you, and like, let's move you away from all of them. And so like, that is huge cycle of violence, right? So that is a huge beginning of the cycle of violence. And it starts off with like, oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, or like those kinds of things, whether it's physical, emotional, or mental abuse, it's still abuse, regardless of how they're actually doing it. And so Sandra says, you were actually describing what the relationship was like and taking you away from your family. And Sandra says, yep. So like, Sandra definitely understands where it is that you're coming through. And then the next thing that she said is trapped, and makes you think that it's your fault.
Yeah, you do. You feel like this is all your fault, and this is your punishment for I don't know, I felt it was my punishment because it was my first marriage, and I thought I was doing a good thing by getting married, and but this was my punishment for wanting marriage so bad. I don't know. It's funny though, he did make sure to also ruin my medical career, and that's one of the aha moments. I was actually working in a doctor's office because I went to school and was a medical assistant, and I've never had a problem getting along at work, and I swear the whole time I was with him, he like infused me with the worst energy in the world, that when I went to work, I was very combative with people, and it wasn't that like they would just be argumentative. So I feel like now that looking back, that I've had my spiritual awakening, a lot of things just kind of hit me like, oh my God, like, why did you do that? And why this? But now I kind of process it and I understand that you're just fully blind.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you want to do either. It is, they work on you, because everybody who knows me knows I'm a very strong, I've made it through this life. I am an indigo child to the fullest. But this man was like the demise of, and he literally worked on me. And that's what I want to tell women out there is, if you're going through this or it's bad, don't sit there and beat yourself up, because that's what we do. And we feel so guilty and we feel like there's nothing we can do. And there is something you can do. They're just sad people with ulterior motives. And no matter if you give them everything in the world, they're never going to have enough. And after they're done with you, sucking you dry of all your energy, they're going to move on to other people.
And it's so true, right? It is that it's being able to keep you down and hold you down and stop you from moving forward. And so Sandra says, I lasted 33 years of marriage abuse, and abuse is abuse. And so they bring you down and no self-esteem, right? So the more that they actually try and like they pick at you, right? So they just pick away. Like you said, I'm a very strong person and I'm able to do this. And so I was going to work and I was having difficulty with some of the people around. But the truth of the matter is that those are environments where you were actually safe enough to be able to protect yourself, to be able to do the things that you need to do. Whereas in your relationship, you were stuck. Right. So it's like, I'm damned if I do. I've got to do this for my daughter. I need to be. And there's like this whole grandiose, and like you talked about the fact that he was narcissistic. Right. Oh, yeah. So like he's got this grandiose idea of who he is and what it is that he can be doing. And he's all powerful. And whether he's trying to be or not, he still is. Right. So like that's just really, really important for us to be able to remember, and that we have that strength. And so like, I love the fact that you said to any woman that's actually watching this, that you can get out. There are ways of being able to get out. So I'm not sure. I think you're out west, right, Jesse? You're in Canada?
Colorado.
You're in Colorado. Okay, you're in Colorado.
I'm in Colorado.
So like, I'm not sure, like we have in our community, we have a women's shelter that women can actually access some services where they can actually help to be supported and to be able to get out of abusive relationships, whether they're physical, and I'm going to go back to whether they're physical, emotional, or mental abuse, it's still abuse, right? So even if he does not lay a hand on you, does not mean that it's not abusive. And so I think that that's really, really important for us to be able to know, right? So so Sandra says, I stayed for my boys, which I thought was the right, but totally wrong. And so, and Jesse, like you described your scenario of like, when something was impacting your daughter, that's when your eyes got opened, right? It's like, I can't do this. I can't allow that to be able to happen, right?
Exactly. And another thing is, because there's a lot of, my whole divorce, I don't know, it was like a Lifetime movie. So for those of you out there, like we could exchange some stories. My divorce lasted a year and I'll tell you, this guy is so great that on the day that we're supposed to get divorced, he decides that he doesn't want to agree to anything and we're going to have to delay it. And the judge really looked at me because I was about to fall, and he's like, well, we'll delay this, but we'll go ahead and divorce you, because that's how, to the level of narcissism, he like drug this thing out. And he told me, the one thing is, I want to instill that fear is a tactic that they love to use, because I married this guy and got told that the only way I was ever going to leave my marriage was through a body bag. Now, at some point, like, I don't get scared easily, and I don't think, maybe, you know, like you have to go back and forth, you know, because is it open fear? Because some guys are that crazy, but guys love to tell you that. And that was at the point when I saw my daughter look that way. I said, body bag or no body bag, I guess we're both going. It's you or me. I'm leaving. I'm not going to be here, and you're not going to scare me and put fear on me to, I'm not going to live my life that way. So at some point, and that's what women have to do, we're like, well, I guess it's me or him. And we take that big step, and we really hope that the angels and the universe has got our back when we do it. So
yeah. And sometimes, like you said, like, so he made those threats, and sometimes those threats are not that yours weren't valid, like that's not the right word that I'm looking for, but like they actually do follow through on that threat, right? So you were very fortunate that he didn't follow through on that threat. But we've had different scenarios, and I'm sure that you have in your community or in your area, different scenarios where that it has actually, that threat has actually became a reality. And I'm thankful that you actually were not one of those statistics, because you're actually here to be able to share that with people. And so, but there are different things that can actually be done to be able to help protect you. And so it's just a matter of finding those resources and how to be able to connect with those resources. And so Sandra says verbal abuse is totally horrible and it haunts her.
Yeah. So, almost rather, most women, if you poll women, most women would rather be punched in the face than to have verbal abuse or mental abuse, because we can't get it out of here. It plays over like a recorder in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. And that makes so much sense. And so now one of the things, so you talked about this toxic relationship and how you were able to get out. But what are some of the things that you did to be able to heal yourself through leaving this relationship?
So after I left this relationship, obviously I've had to, go through a whole self change. And that's why I've been awakened most of my life. But I found out that you don't practice your gifts unless you feel safe. And I never felt safe enough. And obviously this guy would have monetized off my gifts if he would have known I had my gifts, because he's just that kind of person. So I really started paying attention. I started seeing numbers, and that really started getting me on my path. And I figured out I was having a spiritual awakening, and that I was going, and then that made me go into this whole, I'm going to take care of myself. And people were always asking me, what are you going to do now that you don't have a husband? And I'm going to be happy. They all, everybody's got all these questions. What do you want? I want peace, because I walked away with nothing out of 10 years, almost $100,000 out of a marriage. And I got, he kept all my stuff. I got, they don't have a women's shelter in the Springs. They do in Denver. They just have Tessa here, which is the women's place, but they don't have a shelter. So if you get kicked out like I did, even though I wasn't legally kicked out of my house, he decided I couldn't live in my house anymore, and I had to go live at the Salvation Army for a week.
Okay.
And then I had to go live at my friend's house for a month. And when you're over 30 some years old, that's not cute to go stay with your friends on the couch for a month. No. And I had to, because I had to get all my checks together. So, and I'm just verbalizing this information because that's the biggest thing is a lot of people even had the gall to tell me, why didn't you be prepared? Why didn't you prepare yourself that whole time? And why didn't you save up money? Well, okay, I had $4,000 in bills, and this is where women can't leave. I had $4,000 in bills that I couldn't pay and save money. And that's where people, that's where the thing is they feel like they're stuck.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing, right? So one of the things that Sandra had said was that feeling of being stuck and not being able to get out, and that not being able to but being able to overcome your fear by taking that step, right? So being able to trust in yourself enough to be able to take that step, to be able to, and like you said, couch surfing with your friends at your age is not something that you want to be doing. And
not when you're a medical assistant, and going to a professional job, no.
And again, it goes back to that abuse, right? Or I mean, it goes back to those images of what other people portray things as happening, right? So, so when I worked at our women's shelter, one of the women that actually had accessed our services had actually come from was in a relationship who they were very well off, right? So they were a very well off couple, and so very powerful in the sense of financial power and that kind of thing. And so when she had actually come into our shelter, she had actually been severely beaten, and it was like, I can't go to the hospital because I don't want them to, like, because it's going to be on record and I don't want anybody to know what it is that's going on, but had felt safe enough to at least come into the shelter. But it's like that, it's that fear, right? It's that fear of what is everybody else going to think, right? So it's not even about what he's going to think or what's going to happen with him. It's about that image of how it portrays to other people. And that's one of the things that, like, just based on what it is that you said, is that I was a medical assistant, right? So I didn't want these things to be happening. I didn't want, not that anybody wants these things to happen. So again, that's like the wrong choice of words, but I don't want anybody else to know, right?
Embarrassing, yeah. Well, it was just more embarrassing where I worked at because it was a little higher scale of a place, and
yeah,
he drug my business to my place to put the cherry on the top. So yeah.
So what do you mean by that?
Well, he, like I said, I lived a Lifetime movie. He couldn't just be pleased with, he mentioned to me when I left, this is what, one day I was sitting and we were already on the outs and we were going, but he came in my room and started yelling at me and towering over me. And I was on my phone trying to ignore him. And then he told me, I'm going to take your kid. And then he told me, he said, if you leave me, I'm going to take your kid and I'm going to ruin your career. And so he made sure to have they called the police on me 3 times and made false reports that I hit him. He's a 6 foot tall, 250-pound man. He literally went to the court and filed a restraining order and wrote up like pages of fake stuff that happened. He called CPS on me and twice and made 2 false reports with CPS. I had them come over to my house and walk around and sit on my bed and check out my bedroom because he lied so much. And they ended up paying my rent for Christmas because they felt bad that he wouldn't stop, like, because he made all these allegations. So yeah, at some point, but yeah, he went and drug all this. So I'm trying to check in patients, and I've got the sheriff coming to my upscale doctor's office asking for me. And yeah, that looks really appropriate, and it's because he's making all these lies behind the scenes. And at one point I even got to ride up the elevator with my boss, and she yeah, it was just a really fun thing. So yeah, it's okay now, like looking back, but I understand how women, it was just a totally embarrassing thing, to go through all that and be like, hi, yeah, I'm just dragging my life out to work, no big deal. And patients are like, why are there policemen here?
Right. And one of the things that is, at least in our, like in our province, is that I can actually say that it's actually more well known. It is more, people are able to, people see it and understand it a lot better than they did several years ago. Right. So like, so it makes a huge difference, I think. And again, I'm not sure in your community whether or not that is like that it's more, that there's more public awareness around the situation and what it is that's going on. Is that, so is that in your community? Is there more public awareness?
Well, it's not the public awareness. It's the fact that when you're a narcissist, you are, mine was like, I think there should be a competition on who can be the best liar and who can tell the best lie. Mine, I swear, can win. He goes so good that he got my mom and my family on the phone and made up all these things that I was doing because they live in another state.
Yeah.
And so that's what happens, is that they make you crazy. And I was emotional. And if you get me wound up, I'm gonna explode. I'm one of those people that look at her go. I don't, I've learned how to handle that over the years, but that was his favorite thing. He knew how to push my buttons. So he would get me really riled up, and then he would record me, and he stood in front of the courthouse steps with his phone. He got me riled up one day and recorded me and said, I'm going to show everybody this. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't believe me because he was so good that he was making me look like I was just crazy. And he told everyone that I was on drugs, and I don't even know what he told people, but it was, I really wish I knew what all this cool stuff. I was like, I want to know where the parties are that I'm supposed to be at. I don't even remember going to all these parties and having all this fun that you're telling everybody I'm having. So like, I'm a funny, sarcastic. If people are going to talk about me, I'm not going to just sit here and be upset about it. I'm going to laugh with you because it sounds like a good story, really.
But in the moment and when you're in it, that's not the case, right?
No, it's not. And I can laugh about it now. I'm sorry, I don't want my phone to die on you. I can laugh about it now, but in the moment I was very not okay with it, and I felt very betrayed. And I know there's a lot of women out there that feel betrayed. And there's a lot of parents, because like their mom will take the other person's side because they're such good actors. They're so good at and if you live in another state and the mom can't check on it for their own eyes, sometimes they'll just leave them, unfortunately. Yep. So.
And like you said, in your case, and this isn't the case for everybody, but in your case, he was able to like wind you up like a spin top, like those
oh yeah.
Then when we were a kid, right? Like those things that you do, like you push the button and then you watch it spin, right? So like you push that button to be able to get it going, and then you watch it spin until it finally tops over, right? So yeah. And that's one of the things that you described about your own personality, is that it's easy for people to be able to do that to you, right? So it's being able to recognize where and finding your own strengths. So now that you're out of this relationship and that you've actually been able to move forward, what are some of the things that you actually do to be able to continue healing? And I don't want to say that you're completely done healing, because you're probably not over all the years, right? So like with all the years of abuse, once you leave the relationship, like people will say, okay, well, you're done in the relationship, let's just move on. And that's not the case. There's still lots of scars, and there's still lots of healing that needs to be done from all of the years of the abuse. So what are some of the things that you're doing in your own personal healing now to be able to keep you healthier than what you were, and every day being able to increase that?
So what I do now is actually a lot better, because now that I've went through it, and because that's the thing, you get to the end of it and you're like, where do I go now? Like, I'm a hot mess walking around, and I'm emotional all over the place. And I have learned really to connect with my angels, and that's why my whole business is to help not just women, I help everybody. I help you to connect with your angels, because that's my biggest tool right now is meditation, is learning to take 5, I'm a big preacher of taking 5 extra seconds, because I have anxiety, I have PTSD from these relationships and my life. So I have to take those 5 extra seconds I have to, I don't try to respond right away when people say something. I try to listen, and I try to not react right away. I try to be kinder to myself every day, and put myself first. And I am a giver. I love to help everyone, but I do have to say, I've learned how to set my boundaries. And if I don't like it, I'm going to tell you I don't like it. And that's just how it is. And I made up a toxic relationship spread as well to help other women to overcome this. Cause that's the thing is, I've learned a lot of tools now to that it's not my fault.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy. I was with someone for 10 years, and why is it 3 years later, I did not know that he was a narcissist. That's what's crazy, is that we don't know that. And then when you put it on there, you're like, wow, that's a whole nother thing. And it's not like, it's a different kind of scar that you're walking away from.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of self-care. I am a lot more selfish to myself, because if you don't take care of yourself, I found out nobody else will. You have to make yourself a priority, and you have to don't do things that don't feel good. If they don't feel good, it's not meant to be in your life. And
Yeah.
Think about that. Think about what you can change to make it feel better.
And I really like the last thing that you just finished saying is, like, if it doesn't feel good, then don't do it. Right. So there's a difference between feeling uneasy about something, of like kind of stepping out of your comfort zone, for example. So coming on and doing this live, right? So it's like that stepping out of your comfort zone, but that's not something, so that's an unease. That's not not feeling comfortable. Right. So I think that part there is like really, really important, to be able to like really stress on something that Jesse just said. So one of the other things that you said is that self-care and becoming more selfish, right? So self-care isn't selfish, because like you hit that nail on the head of, if you don't look after you, no one else is going to. Right. So if you if you are not taking care of yourself and making sure that you are okay, then no one else is going to take that responsibility either. Right. Yeah. So just really, really important for you to be able to remember that part. And so the other thing that you said is, that I wanted to be able to touch on is that you said that you are kinder to yourself. So what do you do now that's different than before?
My self-talk is a lot better than my self-talk used to be horrible. I've had it's funny, I was just doing a video about this, about I lost 50 pounds. I was almost 200 pounds with my ex. I weigh 137, and this just hit me like a ton of bricks, that I've noticed that I feel better about myself. I don't put myself down. I try to engage in the good things, and things that make me happy.
So what are some of those things, Jesse?
I'm sorry.
Just because somebody may be stuck, right? So somebody else might be stuck. So being kinder to yourself, what does that look like? Right?
Well, it's not calling yourself names when you're because a lot of times when you have mental abuse and you feel stupid half the time, and you don't feel worth anything, and you feel alone. And that's what I'm learning, to reinforce positive mantras. Like I like to say I am mantras. I stopped smoking. I've quit smoking for almost a year now, and I couldn't do that before. And I'm just more into, I never thought I would be into exercising and walking, and I've always liked nature, but now I'm really into it. And I just feel like you need to take time for yourself, because moms have the biggest problem of they got to take care of everyone else, and then you don't take anything, and then you feel selfish if you even spend $5 on yourself for something. And that's one thing where the selfishness needs to come in. It's not selfish to take care of yourself, to make yourself feel good.
And to make yourself a priority, right? So oftentimes, so most of my clients are women, and oftentimes it's like, oh, well, I really want to be able to sign up for that retreat, or I really want to be able to go to that workshop, or I really want to be able to sign up for that program, but I really can't afford it. But my kid is in dance. My kid is in playing hockey and going to all these tournaments, and my partner is going off and is going hunting on hunting trips or going to a hockey game tournaments. And but yet, when we look at what it is that we need for us, it's like you said, I can't even spend that $5 on myself. And that is something that I hear from a lot of my clients all the time, is that I can't put that money out on me, because like, well, what happens if I need to do this, or that I want to do that, or I really need to check with my husband, and then comes back with a story of, oh, my husband just come home with buying a brand new car.
Yeah.
But he didn't talk to me about it, but he came home with a brand new car. But you can't go to a $40 workshop on being able to give yourself something, or going to the spa and giving you that that self-care time, that me time, like being able to get your hair done, or getting your nails done, or going and getting a facial or whatever, right? So it can be something physical, it can be something emotional, it could be something in terms of your growth, but every one of those little things are is that showing that kindness to yourself. Yeah. Right. So
a lot of journaling too. I like and I'm a writer as well. I've always been interested in writing, so I think that helps too. My biggest thing with my clients is I like them to journal, and most of all, limiting beliefs. A lot of people have limiting beliefs that they put on themselves, that other people have put on themselves as well, so that makes it even harder. So just, you know, take time and stop and evaluate, because it's not that people want you to break up with your relationship. They want you to be in a good relationship. And that's when I think a lot of people get defensive. And that's where about a relationship, when you're in a toxic one, you don't see it. Only the person that's in it does not see it. So if you're in one, just take time and see, you know, because guys, nobody's going to be perfect. There's no Cinderella Prince Charming that's going to come in those movies, you know. That's it can happen, but it's not going to be exactly like that, you know. But you got to learn how to communicate in a relationship. But if there's constant yelling and fighting and one-way street, you really need to evaluate, is that where you want to be at, or do you are you happy? Do you want to be like that? Because if you're not, then you can change it. But a lot of people, fear is the biggest thing, that of the unknown, or to be alone, or whatever the fear is, that's what makes them to not make the decision. So.
Yeah. And one of the things that just I think that it's actually really important for women to be cautioned is that you talked about like the yelling and the screaming, and in some cases the abuse doesn't happen that way, right? So the abuse doesn't happen in the yelling and screaming kind of way. It's so there's a disagreement or there's an argument, and he takes things, including his own personal attention, away. Right. So I think that that's something else that's really, really important for people to know, is that just because there's no yelling and screaming doesn't mean that there's not abuse. Right. So silent treatment, and there's the right. So like all of those other things of and then it's like, oh, well, I'm sorry, or the sarcasm, or the like, you always do this. Right. You always start these arguments. Right. So it's like, well, I'm trying to have a conversation, right? So again, like, so in over the years that I've actually worked with different women, the abuse shows up in different ways. And so sometimes it's very out there. And like I said, there's the obvious of like physical abuse, like, so that's very obvious. But then there's then there's all the subtle things, right? So, or like one of the other things in terms of the abuse and the control is financial abuse, right? So taking control of the money and keeping others from being able to have access to it and that kind of thing, and only giving you so much. And there's a difference between following a budget, right? So like there's a difference between that as well. And so like going back to the client who shared that that it's like, oh, well, I can't sign up for that program, or I can't go and do this self-care thing, or I can't go away for the weekend without checking with my husband first, but yet he drives home with a brand new car. And right, so like there's those kind of like different control things. And so I think that those are actually really important for people to notice as well. So now, so one of the things that you said is that you actually help people connect with their angels. So how do you do that?
So when I'm an empath, and I can actually do it on the phone. I don't have to be in person, but I can connect with your energy, and I don't know how it happens. I guess energy is energy, but I can be reading through a post on Instagram or Facebook, and I'll start sobbing because I can feel I feel the energy in it. And so I pick up my Oracle cards, and I have different ones depending on what the situation is. But I ask the angels what the message is, and it basically will give me the message of what the biggest message that you're turning a blind eye to. That's what and that's where I'm most helpful, because the stuff that I tell you isn't stuff that you don't already know. It's stuff that you've been ignoring, and I get the unfun job of delivering that to you. But I am a very kind, and I understand that they're not fun messages, because when I first started learning my messages, I just put my cards down. Well, thanks a lot. That's pretty, thank you, Captain Obvious. And then, because there's stuff that you don't think will make a difference one way or another. But if you follow the guidance, that's where the magic comes in, because it's those little things about not beating yourself up, having self-care, having peace, having fun. I love the play card because it says, drop what you're doing and have fun right now. And it cracks me up because it says, stop what you're doing right now. I'm like, how many people have just stopped what they're doing and just started having fun?
Yeah. And that's the part that's like really that spontaneity and being able to have that playful side and really connecting with that is really, really important. And so one of the things that I actually think is so interesting with Oracle cards, or whether it's tarot cards, like whatever it is, I prefer Oracle cards a lot. So like I use them a lot. Hey, Maggie. And so, but being able to tap into those messages coming from and spirit, and Maggie is like a really great person in terms of, and I'm going to use you, Maggie. So Maggie's actually just hopped on, and one of the things is that she kept getting different messages, but she wasn't listening, right? So so her friend would say, okay, spirit's telling you a message about this, and spirit's telling you a message about that, or I'm getting messages from spirit and I'm hearing all these different things, but you just kind of keep going through, right? So like you said, your role as part of your with your clients is being able to tell them, right? So it's that from the Lion King, where the little monkey, right? The monkey hits him over the head and says, hey, what'd you do that for? Doesn't matter, it's in the past, right? So it's like moving forward and doing the things that you need to, and just being able to hear those messages. And so like you've got these wise, like that wise monkey that has these different messages, and you get all the different things that are coming through. So you're like the monkey that's actually hitting the person over the head saying, hey, this message is there, right? So, and the other thing that I like about the Oracle cards is that it doesn't, so people will say, well, I don't like that card. Like, no, I'm going to get somebody else to draw a card for me, or I'm going to get, and the messages keep coming back the same, right? It doesn't matter what it is or whose deck you're using or what it is that's happening. It's, and who's pulling the card for you. It's like the messages are the same. And so it's just really important for us to be able to listen and trusting that intuition and being able to connect. So for those of you who actually choose to do some work with Jesse, it's just really important that when she gives you that message, don't dismiss what it is that she's saying, right? So that message is coming to you because you're supposed to be hearing that message. And sometimes you've reheard that same message over and over again. And it's just really important for you to do that. And so, so is there anything else, Jesse, that we haven't talked about that you think would be really important for people to know?
Well, I just want to, I'm in Colorado, and I started, I'm going to starting May 8th. I'm starting a Mommy and Me meditation circle for my toxic relationship group. And it's at the park, and it's going to be like an hour where we sit and chat and kind of go over things and kind of have, it's creating a space for people, for women, moms that to bring their child with them to vent and get it, you know, have a safe place. And I think that is about that. And then I do my I have a toxic relationship spread that I do. It's understanding your toxic relationship, and it's a 5-card spread that I made up that helps a lot of people understand, because the thing is, you walk away from a relationship like a narcissistic one, and you got all these whys and whos, and instead of texting your ex and getting yourself in, because he's never going to tell you the answer, I give a lot of women freedom from that guilt so they can find their real person, because that's the thing, is they're holding back their soulmate, they're holding back their person that's supposed to be in their life, because they keep holding on to the toxic relationship from all the guilt and everything that is came in. So that's kind of what I want to do with that. But those are the 2 things. If you go to my group, Colorado Angelic Gardening, that's where I made the group so I could do my toxic relationship. I have an angelic gardening session as well. It's an hour session, and it helps you cut ties to your toxic relationship.
So can you find that through your Facebook page?
Yes. And if you're interested in it, you can join the Colorado Angelic Gardening group, or you can send me a message and sign up for it, because I have 2 options: angel sessions or my coaching sessions.
Okay.
So I pretty much, the angel sessions, because I've decided angel sessions are for if you want to come in and you don't want to have a commitment to have to, you know, face all this stuff. That's what the angel sessions are for. But if you want to actually tackle it and you want a cheerleader and an earth angel to help you, that's what my coaching sessions are for. So
nice. So, so one of the things that, so in the description, I have Jesse's Facebook page. So if you guys are interested, then in the actual group, then maybe one of the things that that Jesse can do after we're done is that she can actually go and put the link to be able to access her group so that you have access to that. And because I think that might be really helpful for them to be. So if there is somebody who's wanting to make that decision or wanting to take that step, so whether they're actually looking to leave a relationship or not, and nobody's saying that you have to leave a relationship. There are different ways of being able to manage the relationship. Sometimes it is leaving those toxic relationships, and sometimes it's a matter of working through those relationships. But you are the only one who's going to be able to know that, and you're the only one who's going to be able to make that decision. So so at no point is anybody saying, yes, you have to leave. No, no, this is not a bad relationship. Like, if it's something that's going on with you, it's just really important for you to be able to do that. So Maggie says, because we were actually talking about like spirit hitting over the head, Maggie says, absolutely. And sometimes we just don't want to hear it. right? So
I don't want to hear it either. But I do like to let people know, because I've watched other people and I've had people deliver messages to me terribly before. And so I am very, I feel like I have a responsibility to deliver your message, and I'm also nice about it. I don't go for the jugular, and I just want to point that out to people, because I'm kind about, and then instead of trying to tell you which way to go, I help you weigh out your options. So I think that's very important for when you're in that, because you don't want to feel, you want to feel like it's your decision, that you left, not everybody telling you to. So,
and nobody else knows you better than you, and so like that part there is really important. And so so I think that those are like extremely important for people to know. So but yeah, so so Jesse will put the link in for, like I said, you can access her Facebook page, but in terms of the group that she was talking about, she can put the link in, and that'll allow you to be able to have access. Oh,
page as well. If you go to my Facebook, you can look on the groups tab, and I know it's under there as well. But I'll put it. It should be under the groups, because I have 3 different groups in there, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I don't see it because I'm on your Facebook page, because I was going to actually do copy and paste, but I don't see a group. I don't see the group page. But so I'll let you do that part, and so people can actually find it that way. And but yeah, so thank you so much, Jesse, for sharing your story. And I think that part there is like probably the most empowering thing for most women, is being able to hear someone else's story, because some of the things that you talked about were things that other people will be saying, yeah, me too. Yeah, that fits with me too. And I think that that is hugely powerful, because then we get a reminder that we're not alone.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing, is I want you, whoever's listening to this, to know that you're not alone. And I think really, I mean, I sound like that's all I talk about is my angels, but it's really like, it's really saved my life and helped me to stop making decisions, because we think we're alone and we're really not. And if you ask your angels for help, they will help you. Yep. But there is that thing called free will. So we have to be a part of, they can't make you do anything, but you're never alone. And I just want people to know that out there. And there's always a way out, but you got to find it. You got to find it within yourself to take that first step too. So.
Yep. And that's really, really important, is taking those first steps. So, so Maggie says, I'm also learning that spirit only has what is best for my higher self. So I am listening now. And I think that that's really important. So like, we're talking spirit, we're talking angel messages. And so the one of the things that I think that is really important for people to know is that means whatever that means, like whatever that higher being or higher self or higher connection that we have is what that means, right? So different people will have different things, and people say, well, yeah, but I believe in this and I believe in that. And so it's just being able to connect to that higher self. So whatever that looks like for you. So whether it's your angels or your fairies or your or spirit or God, like whatever, those messages are still there, regardless of what you call it. Those messages that are coming forward are still there, right? So I have a friend that whenever anything happens, good or bad, always says, thank you, angels, for whatever. And because that is where her connection comes from, is so again, whatever that name is, right? So calling it spirit or calling it angels or calling it fairies or whatever, right? So I don't want anybody to think, oh, well, I don't believe in angels, so like this isn't going to work for me. There is still a higher energy that's coming forward. So so is that something that you agree with, Jesse?
And that's totally, I always let people know that I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I'm a spiritual person. You can be whatever. I deal with people of different religions. That's not my focus, because, when I tell you your message, I will not say God, for the simple fact that not because I don't believe it or you don't believe in it, but if you don't believe in it, then my whole message went like that. So I try to put my message where you understand it. Yeah. Because I don't want to say put labels on stuff. You put labels on stuff, then people stop listening. And I want you to hear the message. It's not important who it's the person, the name of the person of it. It's important message. And that's I make sure to get that very out of the way that this is your message. And I just want you to listen to the message. And I am the messenger. And a lot of times spirit talks through me to my clients. So we don't really get hung up on that too much, but I understand a lot of people do. And you know, that's not any of my purpose. Is I'm not trying, I just want to get you to feel better. And whoever you need to connect to and talk to at night and during the day, that's who you feel with. It's all about feeling comfortable, because it's a way of life. It's a whole new way of life. It's not just something you do on the weekends. Self-care is a way of life too. So.
And it's being able to change that. And that's why I thought that it was really important for people to be able to hear that, because as I'm talking to Maggie, I'm saying spirit, but while I'm talking to you, I'm saying angels, right? So because it all depends on what people, where that's coming from for people. So I want to thank each of you for joining us today, and whether it's today or on the replay. So #replay if you are catching the replay. And if for those of you who are actually catching this on YouTube, then there's definitely some opportunity for you to be able to talk. Or to be able to share some of your insights or some of your questions on the even on the YouTube channel in the discussion area. And so once I get this uploaded onto the YouTube channel, then I actually get it posted into my website. And on the front page of my website, the one that is actually being viewed is the most popular one. And so right now Maggie's has been the most popular out of everyone. So Maggie, who's actually jumped on. So for those of you who are catching this, if you like this and you are definitely interested in this topic, and share it and let people know about this conversation, because I think that this conversation is really important. Not that Maggie's conversation wasn't important, but I think this conversation is really important. So if you guys are able to do this, I would love for you guys to be able to share Jess's story and share Jess's information. And so just really important for us to be able to do that. So I will be posting this on my YouTube channel. So if you subscribe to my channel, you'll be able to get any of the updates on the Monday Whispers chat. And like I said, we're going to get this uploaded onto YouTube, and once we do, then it'll be on my website as well. And so it'll actually be in the Monday Whispers chat section for the next week, and until we get to our next session next week. But like, the more that this conversation and this topic gets shared, the better, because I really think that this is valuable information in terms of being able to get out of toxic relationships, because I think that many women experience these toxic relationships and really feel that they're alone and have trouble getting out. So share this message with your friends, your family, people that you know that are experiencing it. Send it out and really get it out there. So Maggie says they are all important, because she was referring to the fact that her video is still number one on the website. So, and you're right, Maggie, they are all important. And it's just very ironic that you are here talking to me during the Facebook Live, and it's yours that is still first and foremost on the website, on the main page. So, but thank you again, everybody. So Jess actually sent the links, but I don't think that I can actually get it from this screen for the group, but we'll definitely get it into the comments. And like I said, if you have any questions, then please feel free to send us a message. So on that note, I'm going to sign off, if I can sign off on the right computer. And so we will talk to everybody again next week. And thank you very much for joining us now or on the replay.